Hello and welcome to the Conspire Bitches podcast. How are you, Mecole?
How are you, Kat? I'm
I'm
great.
I'm so I wish I got to interview you right off the cusp, right when you got out of the house, but I was sick that morning. So I'm
Oh,
glad that we got to circle back and now I have you on. But it's even better now because now I get your kind of, renewed perspective since you've been out of
yes,
the house.
yes, that's right. I'm excited for
So
that.
how's everything been going since you've been out?
I mean, well, obviously, I'm super excited to be back with my hubby. I miss him so much. Like, that's been really great. And just being able to, relax and just be in a space where I can get good sleep and I don't have to worry about cameras or people plotting against me all day and night. So it's been great to just get good sleep and be back with my hubby and my cute little dog Gizmo.
So, and I'm assuming your husband filled you in on everything that was going on while you were in the house, and
Oh
I'm sure
yeah.
he had been watching everything.
Oh yeah, my husband's on the ride back from the airport, he was spilling tea. Like I didn't even get in the car good. He was like, "So this happened. They said this about you. This person." I was like, "Oh, what? How?"
Wait, so what was the tea? What was the biggest shock? Because I always think it's so much fun to because when you're in the house, you're like a Martian. Like you don't know anything that's
Yeah.
going on. So what was the biggest surprise that you learned when you got out of the house?
Well, I think the first biggest and initial surprise was that while I thought that Corey and America were solely responsible for the vote flipping on me, it was actually them and Jag and Matt, which I was like, okay, this is interesting. Learning that Corey may have had some feelings around me picking him in soulmates, and that kind of made him a little more leery of me. I think that's kind of where the tide started to turn a little bit for him and the wheels started to spin a little bit. That was also interesting. And then just hearing, obviously, that Brown Sugar Babes was never really a thing the way that I thought it was the thing. And I'm probably the only person in Brown Sugar Babes who actually believed in it and thought it was the thing was also just eye opening and heartbreaking at the same time.
I wanted to talk to you about that because let's talk about the Brown Sugar Babes,
Yeah.
especially when they chose to evict Felicia instead of Izzy. So
Yeah.
why didn't you take this as a sign that maybe you need to branch out beyond the Brown Sugar Babes and find something else?
Yeah, and I think that in that first, the Izzy vote is when that started to happen, right? Because Corey comes to me and he says, "Oh, hey, this is what I'm here in terms of the vote. There is a plan to keep you out of it because of your proximity to Felicia and Sari, essentially Sari and Jared are behind this, but we have the votes to keep her. What do you say about this?" And I'm like, great. And from there, I start spending more time with Corey, America, Jag, Matt, Bowie. We were in the backyard and we were playing around with names for a possible alliance. And then this is when we start talking about, hey, well, next week's target will be Jared and Sari. How do you feel about that? And obviously, under my HOH, I wouldn't have put them up because I knew that they wouldn't have targeted me, but I was at least playing along enough to let them know, hey guys, I do have a willingness to do this. Maybe not necessarily the way that you guys want to do it, but I am open to the idea of this. And I think it just started to kind of take a turn after that for whatever reason.
So, going back to, I guess, how you're feeling post eviction, everything. So, was it a surprise to you whenever Zingbot just called you out of nowhere?
Listen, there are not many people who get to play this game and actually get zinged by Zingbot. And there's probably nobody in the history of this game who's been zinged by Zingbot post eviction. I lived for it. Thank you, Mr. Zingy. I loved it. It was so funny.
What did you think about his zinging? He kind of said that he alluded to maybe that you weren't doing anything. What did you do? You have a statement for Zingbot?
Mr. Zingbot, I would like to say that there is something to be said about quiet strength and mental fortitude. It may not necessarily be your cup of tea, but it is my cup of tea. So zing that, Zingbot.
So while you were in the house, you already know this by now, but while you were in the house, you had tons of old tweets resurface. And it was crazy because it was like something for every single situation that you were in the house. So I wanted to show you a couple of these, and then I have questions to go with them as well. So the first one was from 2010, and it was you. You said, "I was getting too comfortable in the house, way too comfortable." Do you think that you are getting too comfortable in the Big Brother house?
Absolutely not. There was never a time in the Big Brother house where I felt comfortable or where I felt safe. Obviously, I've been able to go back and kind of get filled in on what's been going on. And I've heard so many people say, like, oh, I'm throwing this comp or I plan to throw this comp. I never walked into any comp veto saying, hey, I'm going to throw this. I always knew that the best safety is safety that you have for yourself. And the only way to actually have that is by winning a veto or an HOH. So, no, definitely never felt comfortable in the Big Brother house. Never.
So your next tweet was from 2011 when you said LOL, hashtag bye Felicia. So let's talk about you and Felicia's final two. Was that a real final two, or where do you and Felicia stand today?
That was a real final two for me. And I love Mama Fee. After the Izzy and Mama Fee on the block week, that she became the only person in the house who I feel like I can trust, and the only person who I felt, with all of her antics and all of her energy, the only person who I felt would actually be honest with me. And so I would have loved to make it to the end of this season and sit next to Mama Fee in those final two chairs. It would have been an honor. I think that she's played a great game. She's super entertaining. And just outside of all of her antics, she's very smart and a great human being. So I have loved getting to know her and look forward to seeing her once all of this is done.
I loved you and Felicia's duo. I wanted y'all to make it to the end, the final two chairs. I'm rooting for Felicia still, but whenever y'all teamed up, I really loved that duo. So I'm glad that it was real. Let's see. All right, and then we got this one from 2011. You said, bitch, you ain't in the circle. So why didn't you kind of already answered this, but why didn't you branch outside of your circle and maybe explore something with Corey in America when they were trying to work with you at the beginning of the season?
Yeah. So, very early on, obviously, I thought Brown Sugar Babes was the real deal. And that's what I was planning to stick to. That would have been my ideal final four had, all of the madness not occurred. I think that once we got to the Izzy and Felicia week, that was a pivotal point for me in which I probably should have pivoted more than I actually did and should have been a little more fluid in my game as opposed to being, I hate to use this word, but rigid, if you will. And I think by that point, you had the duos that were Jag and Matt, Corey and America, or the trios of Jag, Matt, Blue. And you just had all of these groups that had felt like they had been solidified for such a long time. And I think part of me just didn't want to be on the bottom of any of those. And then you have Bowie Jane, who was kind of in the middle. And I just didn't want to be on the bottom of any of those because I knew that it was like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing at that point. And so it was just really, really hard to navigate that space for me, at least.
So this one was also from 2011. You said, I was never the type to make a fuss. I straightened my demeanor, leave in a hush. But you did not leave in a hush. You left with your, swinging, throwing all the punches. So why, I guess, what did Bowie Jane have to do with the Corey in America call out? And also, why didn't you bring that type of gameplay into the game earlier?
So Bowie Jane just caught a stray. Justice for Bowie Jane, because she did nothing at all. Sorry, DJ BJ, you caught a stray, girl. It was free smoke for everybody at that point. But the Corey in America call out, because at that time I really did believe that they were leading the charge for my eviction. And I think for the most part they kind of floated the idea, and everybody else just kind of jumped on the bandwagon, although they had been discussing it, they as in Jag and Matt prior to. So that was I was just being petty, leaving out. Like I just lost my shot at $750,000. What am I supposed to do? Come on now, let's be serious here. And in terms of why didn't I bring that energy earlier on in the game, I think for me, just recognizing what was happening very early on in the game, right? You had Kirsten, who played the game fast and she played it hard and she was targeted for that. You had Riley, who won in HOH and had people that were willing to rally behind her. She was targeted for that. You had Heisem, who was outspoken in the comp meets. He was targeted for that. And so while I did intend on coming in the house and, being very strategic and being very methodical in my approach with how I managed the people who I was working with or just managed the people around me, I recognized very early on that I had to be a more reserved version of myself in order to minimize the target that would have been on my back. Had I come in with such charisma and all of the antics, it would have been very entertaining, but I would not have lasted 65 days in the Big Brother house, if I'm being quite honest with you. So
then you have this one from 2011. You said, LOL, fuck you, Blue. Wait, I actually have to know. Because you had two tweets about Blue. You also had, "Hey Blue, what you on tonight?" Who's Blue that you're talking to in these tweets? That's when we were like, okay, this is getting weird.
It's so funny. Oh my God, I am screaming. Oh, justice for Blue, girly pop. Justice for Blue.
Well, you did align with her like in the last 24 hours, but she kind of led you maybe a little astray. I don't know. But at the very end, you did I saw you and Blue kind of join forces a little bit.
Yeah, I would say like in the last probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember how long it was exactly, but probably in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I was in the house, Blue and I did start to have more of a conversation. This was after the double eviction, and she was just having some strong feelings about Corey, obviously at that point, because he put her up when he was supposed to put up Sari. And she came to me and she's just like, I just want to let you know that I may be taking this shot and I don't want you to essentially be offended by this. And I was like, oh girl, welcome to the storage room. Although, should you know, I would not be offended at all. Let's get into it, right? So that's kind of where our relationship started. And I would have loved to continue to play the game with her as well. I know that she just won the veto last night, so super happy for her and being the first woman to win a veto comp this season. That's great. I love that for her.
I can't believe I didn't put two and two together that she's the first. Is that?
I believe so. She's the first one to win a veto this season, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Because Riley and Mama Fee won HOHs. All the men vetoes, and this is the first woman veto holder.
Man, Cameron was winning literally everything now.
Oh, Cameron, Isom, Jared, like Jag.
So another premonition tweet that you had, you said this is from 2011. You said zombie life. So pick your zombie: Cameron zombie or Jared zombie.
Oh, I gotta go with Jared zombie. Put me on the clock after he came back from the zombie resurrection. Jared zombie all day.
Man, what did you think of that zombie twist though? Having them both live in the house.
Well, first of all, it felt never ending. By that point, we were post 50 days in the Big Brother house. You have two people who are like, we're not doing anything this week, and they're still going to live here and shake stuff up. And obviously one of them are going to come back. I was like, oh my God, no. And then it was Cameron, he came back and he put me and Mama Fee on the block. I'm like, what? Why? I'm like, you fought your way back in this house to target me and Mama Fee? Oh my God, you genius.
So last tweet you said in 2010, you said, "LOL, girl, low key, I'm a genius. I had to get the fuck up out of there, but yeah, I'm done with that mess." So now that you're out of there, done with that mess, you're watching the season. Who are you rooting for moving forward in the game?
Moving forward in this game, I think that Sari has played a beautiful game up until this point. I think that she's done a fabulous job. She started by running the first half of the game in midway.
Was that a shock to y'all, by the way? Because she was running it so low key. Did that shock you when you got out and realized that, oh, a lot of those moves she was orchestrating?
No, I really wasn't shocked at all, because I watched her on Survivor, and I also knew that she'd won Traitors. I watched the Traitor season that just happened, and I remember saying that to Kirsten the very first night. She was like, "Oh, I was like, oh, she just won Traitors," and I think it just went over her head, and I was like, okay, I don't think anybody knows what that is. Great, so I'll just keep that to myself. And I heard on the feeds that Corey was saying that the other day, and I was like, did you guys really not know this? Like, so said all that to say, no, I'm not surprised at how much of a mastermind Sari has been in this game. Obviously, I would love to see her and Mama Fee sit in those final two chairs. But I think that if the people don't start targeting Jag and Matt sooner rather than later, then they could probably steamroll their way through the rest of this season. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It was a pleasure. And I guess you are, and I saw that you are kind of tweeting a little bit of the season. Yes. So I guess we can find you on Twitter.
Yes, you can definitely find me on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram at Mimi_Hayes, Hayes.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining us, and welcome back to the real world.
Thank you, Kat.
Bye. Oh, how do I stop this recording? I always forget. Oh no. Oh, there it goes.